In this video, I'll be introducing the fruit and vegetables that I've brought today, and I'll be talking about how the different shapes and colours of each will affect the composition and the lighting you may want to consider when you're preparing each one of them for drawing. So I'll start with this one here. It's one of my favourites. This rather alien looking thing is called a yam bean, and it's neither a bean nor a yam, but that's what it's called. It tastes quite like a nashi pear because you can eat it raw, but it grows in the ground. And just look how bulbous this thing is. One of my favourite things about yam beans is that each one is a different shape, so you never have to worry about drawing one wrong, because if you draw something strange looking, there will be a yam bean that looks like it. So when it comes to lighting and composition, those are two central things that you want to consider when you first start thinking about what you want to draw. I'll talk about composition first, and one of the things I'll focus on is this bitter melon leaf. Now, it was a little bit happier when I picked it this morning, but the good thing about having something in your hands is that you can manipulate how it looks on the page. So this wilted bitter melon leaf, I'm going to pin down and try and flatten as much as possible. It is lucky that it's the size of an A4 page. And with botanical illustrations, you want things to look somewhat recognisable and accurate. And one way to do that is to let things fall naturally. With leaves, I try and put them out to their full shape so that you can see what the leaf looks like without it being bent or being on an angle. Of course, if you want to capture the entire branch or the way a vine looks, you may want to capture leaves that are slightly tilted or bent, but if you're trying to focus on the pure leaf shape itself, then it's nice to try and artificially flatten it, kind of like pressed flowers, I suppose. So that's one step for composition. When it comes to 3D objects such as fruits and vegetables, I'll come to this yam bean as an example. Fruits and vegetables are richly shaped and voluptuous objects, and you have the option of whether you want to put it on full frontal at the top, or whether you want it to be a side, or if you want to be a little bit adventurous and you want to cut a cross section. Sometimes though, if you are impatient like me and you want to capture the whole thing, it's nice to put it a little bit side on so you can see what it looks like at the top and on the side and how it curves at the bottom. But of course, there's no right way to draw something. These are all just options you want to consider. Looking at this yam bean, I just wanted to make some observations about how alien and wonderful it is to look at. So when I look at this yam bean, what I see are these beautiful curves that curve to quite a narrow base and quite a bulbous top. And not only that, but they dive in and make these innermost bulbous shapes, almost like a flower. And that makes me think of when it comes to drawing 3D objects, two things or three things that you really want to balance are the shape of the object and the light as it hits the object, as well as the colour and whether there are any blemishes or patterns on the object. 3D objects are a little bit more difficult than 2D objects like leaves, but luckily this yam bean is quite one-coloured, so the main thing to focus about this one is the shape. And how to talk about the shape when you're drawing it is to look at how the shadows hit and the light hits on the shape and figure out the best way to make use of that. So with something like this, we're in a really good spot now because we're in quite neutral lighting and there are natural shadows forming in the wells of each of the cracks of the yam bean. So you might want to find an angle that shows as much volume and as much curves as you can, but also that shows a good amount of shadow as well as light. And I would focus less on the colour and on the patterns for this one, because you really would like to bring out the volume and the shape of something as lovely as this. So those are my thoughts on 3D objects and 2D objects' colour, light and composition when it comes to produce. And in the next video, I'll start talking about how best to start putting these on paper.